Good evening. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the drum and the songs from this morning and the opening prayer by Elder Gary Salt. I'd also like to acknowledge that I'm on the unceded territory of the Algonquin Nation. Kwe, hello, bonjour. My name is Lance Heyman. I am the chief of the Algonquin community of Quebec, a small community in Quebec on the Quebec-Ontario frontier. Well, this year's group of candidates is a stellar group who brings many strengths, diverse backgrounds, and genuine interest to make AFN better. There's one candidate who, in my opinion, stands out amongst all of these candidates. And that candidate is RoseAnne Archibald, whose most recent role has been Regional Chief for Ontario Region. 3 years ago, she was elected Regional Chief and was assigned a number of portfolios as part of her responsibilities on the AFN executive. I met RoseAnne when she was assigned to the Chiefs Committee on Housing, Water, Infrastructure, and Emergency Measures. She was assigned as the co-chair of the water portfolio and quickly became a strong advocate on this file, given the fact that there were and still are many communities without access to safe drinking water across this country. And that's deplorable. Water is a human right, and it's 2021 and we're still talking about communities that don't have water. RoseAnne also supported the work the Chiefs Committee was doing on housing, again, recognizing that housing is a critical need in our communities and that many communities, nations, and regions are in a housing crisis. And that with this global pandemic, it only made things worse. RoseAnne continues to be a strong voice, and as National Chief, she will continue to work and support the Chiefs Committees on these important files. I am supporting RoseAnne in her bid for National Chief of the AFN because I think she is the most qualified. Of all the candidates, she is the most seasoned and experienced, having been a chief at every level, from being a community chief all the way to becoming Ontario Regional Chief. And now it's time for her to make the leap and the transition from a strong regional chief to our national chief. I admire the way RoseAnne conducts herself, and because she is grounded in our traditional teachings and ceremony, she has a deep respect for all people. This is important because this is part of her core as a person, a woman, and a human being. This is who she is. She doesn't have to fake it. She is the real deal. She is a great role model for all the people who have historically felt displaced or like they didn't have a voice. It's time for our chiefs to tell women, girls, and to LGBTQIA people that you can dream, and that dream, you can become a chief, a regional chief, and even a national chief. While everything I've said is important as to why I support RoseAnne, what made me a fan, an ardent supporter, and one of her nominators, and why I'm speaking to you today, happened at the Special Chiefs Assembly in December. There was a resolution, number 13. It was a resolution to end gender discrimination within the AFN. It was clear that this resolution made many uncomfortable, and it appeared that there were some backroom games being played and that someone didn't want this resolution adopted. And while we saw what was happening, not one chief spoke up, not a community chief, not a grand chief, a regional chief, and that included myself. I simply, was going to let the process be the process. And, it looked like this resolution, was probably destined to fail. But RoseAnne spoke up. She spoke up because what she was seeing happening, was wrong. She called out those who were speaking against the resolution. In fact, she went further and called out the national chief to speak to and support this important resolution. The motion was adopted. There were consequences for her outspokenness and for challenging the establishment of the AFN. RoseAnne showed that in calling people out, that she has principles and morals. Her voice made a difference, and that's the voice we need advocating and making the changes needed to make our assemblies and the AFN a safe and welcoming environment for everyone, especially those who are already marginalized by our people and society. I want to just take a minute and go away from my prepared text because, you know, these marginalized people, these two-spirit, these LGBTQIA people, you know, they're our family, our friends, you know, they're our children, they're brothers and sisters, they're our aunties and uncles. And, you know, we need, as chiefs, you know, to create that space. And I believe RoseAnne is the person as national chief to create that space. Last week, she made took the time and made the trip to join with thousands of us in Ottawa who marched in memory of the children who didn't make it home for residential school. She's the kind of chief that will be there. If you call her, she will answer and she will be there for you. À mes collègues chefs de Québec, RoseAnne est le genre de leader dont nous avons besoin en tant que chef national et c'est pourquoi je l'appuie. Si vous voulez de la force, de la stabilité et un changement progressif, alors joignez-nous à moi et votez pour RoseAnne demain et faites-elle la première femme chef national de l'Assemblée des Premières Nations. RoseAnne Archibald is the kind of leader that we need as national chief, and that is why I am supporting her. If you want strength, stability, and progressive change, then join me and vote for RoseAnne tomorrow and make her our first woman national chief. Miigwech, merci, thank you.
Ani Gijab Dishnakaz, Ashkigaman Gimandao. I'd like to acknowledge those who ensured that our meeting opened in a good way. Miigwech. I had the pleasure of meeting RoseAnne 2 years ago at my first AFN AGA. When I introduced myself, RoseAnne was attentive and welcoming. I instantly felt this anti-energy from RoseAnne, a strong woman who would be supportive and firm in her advocacy for our communities. At that time, I had no idea that my term as chief would be dominated by a pandemic. I'm sure RoseAnne didn't anticipate this pandemic either. When the pandemic reached my community with our first case in the summer of 2020, RoseAnne texted me every day until the cases were resolved. She ensured that we had the supports we needed as we moved through this difficult period and ensured regular updates and contact throughout the pandemic thereafter. I'm here today to support RoseAnne because her ability to build relationships with everyone is admirable. As most of you are aware, dealing with a Conservative government can be an uphill battle for Indigenous communities or leaders. RoseAnne has made dealing with the provincial Conservatives look like an easy relationship. There have been difficult conversations. There have been tense moments. But through it all, RoseAnne has been respectful and ensured that the First Nation and provincial relationship can move forward without letting our voices be ignored. A prime example of how effective RoseAnne has been was her appointment to the Provincial Vaccination Task Force. In fact, RoseAnne was the only First Nations leader in Canada appointed to a provincial task force. In this role, RoseAnne ensured that the particular concerns of both urban and on-reserve Indigenous voices were heard. RoseAnne also made sure that our communities and leadership had access to information regarding the vaccines at the earliest opportunity so that we can make informed decisions based on science and in the best interest of our communities. I have seen RoseAnne navigate through conversations about holding the province and Canada accountable for past actions while ensuring a respectful tone. RoseAnne is not a woman who puts up with being ignored or silenced. I have seen RoseAnne do this in accordance with our teachings about balance. I have watched RoseAnne articulate the concerns of our communities in intelligent ways. I've seen her be strategic in her approach to addressing major concerns, using all tools at her disposal to make sure we get where we need to be. I've seen her hold her head high and behave appropriately during unfounded attacks. As I've said, RoseAnne will be the national chief we need at these difficult times. She's like the auntie who will keep us on the right path and who will make sure that we are heard. She is the strong voice who will help us achieve change and build the relationships toward discovering truth and charting a path toward true reconciliation. We see before us a collective movement in Canada to move in a better direction, and RoseAnne will carry this relationship for all of us. I hope you take time tomorrow on July 7th to lend your support to a woman who can lead us to building stronger relationships with our national partners. I hope you can stand with RoseAnne, who can ensure our collective voice is heard. Miigwech.
I see RoseAnne in the waiting room now, so I think we'll just wait 1 minute for her to be let in. I believe RoseAnne is with us now. So RoseAnne, if you're with us, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. I'm gonna mute. I'm not sure how to mute.
You'll have to turn off the sound on one of the devices.
Okay. Sorry about that. I was in the room for the main meeting. I didn't realize I had to register for the candidates forum. In any case, RoseAnne Archibald, thank you very much, Chief Haymond and Chief Witang, for that beautiful introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. First, I would like to acknowledge the creator, the world around us, and our place within it. I'm coming to you from my own home territory of Taykwa Tagamou Nation and acknowledge you on your ancestral, traditional, and unceded territories where you are today. I want to say also miigwech to all of my 15 nominators nationally. Ginanasmukten to our outgoing national chief and the AFN executive for everything you have done over the last 3 years, and especially for the great work that we have done together. Miigwech for our beautiful opening ceremonies and prayers. Chiefs and leaders, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I am a proud Inanuasqueya. I am an auntie, as Chief Witang said. I'm a great auntie. I'm a godmother to 6, 3 boys and 3 girls, and I'm a sister and a friend to many. Before I announced my intention to run for national chief, I went into ceremony and searched my heart and spirit, and I felt that I had to have a spiritual calling for this work. And after prayer and meditation, I realized it was important for me to continue my leadership role nationally. This is an election that almost did not go ahead due to the compounding crises that we find ourselves in: a global pandemic, wildfires, and other natural disasters, which are the result of climate change, and our little ones also being recovered from our former residential schools. It's an emotional time, but if I've learned anything over my life, it's that from difficulties emerge healing, strength, and opportunities. Now, more than ever, we need a stable and strong leader who is committed to evolutionary change. I am that person. In fact, Ontario Chiefs have told me that I have come to represent stability, comfort, and decisiveness as a result of my leadership during the global pandemic. In times of chaos, I've been known to be calm at the center of a storm, something I have learned from my mom. I also know that in a time of darkness, we need a guiding light of hope. And this is what I have tried to embody throughout my leadership journey, to be a beacon emitting positive energy, grounded and connected to all of creation, channeling a deep and abiding love and care for everyone. My greatest hope is that I am a good instrument for the Great Spirit by embodying the spiritual principles of leadership that are grounded in our 7 sacred teachings, of which the highest for me is love. And I humbly speak to you today as a result of a long history of leadership and activism that is firmly grounded in spirit. I'm sorry that I could not connect personally to all of you during the campaign, and I make this commitment that when elected as national chief, I will visit you in your community once the pandemic ends. Right now, we can see the tables are turning, where Canadians are finally starting to learn what their governments have done to our people and our families, and we are gathering more allies. And with the support of our allies, we can make substantive changes for our communities. We must seize this moment and take a quantum leap of change. So tomorrow, you will decide which one of us has the political ability, the skills, the strength, to bring unity, respect, and still push hard for change and progress. Which one of us can show that things will be different, that things will be better? I am asking you to stand with me and support me by voting for me as the next national chief. As we know, leadership is not easy. And I just want you to know that it is a sacred calling for me, and it is filled with challenges and criticisms. And you need a national chief who is not going to sway under pressure, someone who will remain steady and consistent. You need someone who will answer your call, stand with you, advocate for you at all levels where you need it. And yes, I am that person. I wanted to tell you that I did have a platform document, and I do hope that you had an opportunity to read it. It's called Setting a Strategic Direction Toward Evolutionary and Positive Change, where I outline my vision, my leadership values, and my 7 priority goals. If we missed you during our email process, you can find it on my website, roseannearchibald.ca. My positive vision for the future encompasses a healthy Assembly of First Nations organization that strengthens First Nation communities. Further, First Nation sovereignty, jurisdiction, and inherent in treaty rights are recognized, honored, implemented by the Crown based upon natural and spiritual laws. You can go through my document, and I just want to highlight a couple of areas. One is we need post-pandemic recovery plans. We need to strengthen our connections and relationships. We need to fully engage women, youth, and two-spirited LGBTQIA people through empowerment, capacity building, and leadership development. As well as we move forward, there must be truth before reconciliation. I will support and advocate for resources for ongoing healing from intergenerational trauma from colonization, particularly residential schools. As national chief, I will work with federal partners to make sure that all 94 TRC calls to action are implemented. It is crucial that we have a strategic approach that is outlined in my document. And through strategies, I was able to work collaboratively in Ontario to make a difference. So I want to assure you that I'm holding a positive vision of happy, healthy children who are surrounded by the love and care of their families, living in safe, vibrant communities that are grounded in well-being, culture, and language. In conclusion, Chiefs, you will make history tomorrow. And when you elect me, I will be the representative of the historic change that you are enacting. So send a clear message to the women that you love. Show them that they matter. Show them that they can see themselves at the AFN represented by a loving, kind, and strong female national chief. Ninanaskamun Gasakitin. Ninanaskamun Gasakitin. I love you. Thank you.